that we imposed our decision on your gender based on our evidence of what we saw when you were born. That you as an individual have a right to declare your own gender. So Micah, if you got to be, 17, 18 years old, which would be 17 on Monday, right? And suddenly you just decided, you know what? I don't feel like I'm a male. I feel like I'm a female. And so now I'm going to transgender myself, which trans in the prefix means switch or go across. I'm going to go across gender lines because really on the inside I may have had external evidence that says I'm a male. On the inside I believe I'm a female. And here's the deal. I have a fundamental human right to this. Okay, I have a fundamental human right. Now, it's scrambling our world around us. It's not the fact that we're just fighting laws and fighting morals. It's about the worldview. Because if a postmodern person believes that if you don't give someone that right, that you are being oppressive. Okay? Fascinating article I found this week. It's kind of scary. People trying to say Sharia Christian law. Okay? Okay, what's wrong with that picture? This is a postmodern view that I read, that there's a concern that many over in the far left, notice in politics, under postmodernism, you have something called leftism. Leftism is what's called the far left, which is what we call the very liberal view of politics. This all mixes together. A sexual egalitarianism means that there is a fundamental human right for every individual to determine their gender and to determine whatever form of sexual expression in their behavior that they want. It's big, isn't it? Then you combine that in with leftism, which says that the whole political system, everyone should be empowered with their own rights. Now, can you see now some of the news stories that we've got going on? So now we as Christians stand up and say, hang on a minute, there is a God and there's a Bible and this is wrong. But as soon as we say that, then the postmodern person believes we're acting like Sharia law. We're oppressive. Because they believe that as soon as you say there is a rule, you now would view that kind of like what we would view Sharia law. Now, nobody's killing anybody over this, so there is a distinct difference in that. But you see how they're trying to merge that together. Get that? So look at these words over here. I wanted you to wrestle with these words under sexual egalitarianism. Go ahead and circle that. What else do you need to know? You need to know leftism. Now, I'm not expecting you to be a political science expert, but you've got to start wrestling with these words because the word the left is used constantly in the media. How many of you could recognize that? People say, well, on the left, on the left, on the left. It's like left, right, what is this? Left generally means what? Liberal. And in the party construct of a two-party system, it's going to mean Democrat. Okay? Now, there's a lot of range, but the further left you go, you can also get into other parties, but left means liberal. Okay? Right means more conservative. That's kind of a general way of looking at it. Okay? Now, let's see if we cover all of these. Evolution, cultural relativism. Now, that's different. Notice that the word here is cultural relativism versus moral relativism. What's the difference between a cultural relativism and moral relativism? Again, we don't even have to go look this up. We can think. Let's think it through. What would be the difference?
Did culture decide what's right and wrong, not the person himself?
Yeah, and the culture can shift it. By a social group understanding, we can shift it. It's all relative to our culture. So the concept of morality will be set by a cultural group. So, whatever behaviors the gay lesbian group believes is culturally okay within that subculture, they can set that. And the rest of us have to say that's good. Okay, that's the viewpoint. In other words, and if we don't, we're being the oppressors. Do you see why there's such conflict in America now? Because it's not just a clash between what's right and wrong. It's a clash between the fact that we're saying that something is right and wrong, means that as soon as we said that something was right and wrong, we're already out of order. Can you see that? Got it? All right, now that's where we're living right now. So you're gonna have to be learning to interact with people who truly are going to come from that view. If you're going to go witnessing, if you're going to go share your faith with people, and they've been trained right now, and they're in your generation, they will almost assuredly be in postmodern mindset. So does this affect how you go and share the gospel with other people? Well, absolutely. You're going to have to understand the culture you're living in, okay? They might even have blended in some of these other pieces, and they might have a little Christianity kind of put on top like a cherry on top. Okay, so they might have bounced over here and be throwing in, well, God, of course God would want anybody who is homosexual because they were born that way to be able to express who they are, because only a loving God would have that view. Okay, what did I just do there?
You used out the definition of God.
I just did what on my chart? You see how to use this chart?
You.
The atheism part.
I kind of like borrowed a little theism. Then I went over here to some cultural relativism, mixed it with some sexual egalitarianism, and, you know, we didn't get down here and cover some of these other things because interventionism is under economics. We haven't got into that one. That one's probably a little bit further than if we haven't studied economics for us to go to. Okay, you see how this is working? Now, as far as your test, we're almost done here out of time. I want to talk just a minute about some of your articles. You're going to bring your articles back to the next class because we haven't gotten into that. As I told you, we're going to run a little bit behind. So you're going to bring those same articles back next week, and we're going to get ready to talk about it. Do you see what I just did with the news story of this suicide case? Do you see how I looked at it? And the way I want to train you all to look at things that you encounter in the news is obviously you're not going to use every element on this chart. That would be silly. But if you're looking at an economic story, you need to, and as we learn a little bit more on the economics in here, and I don't feel I'm the most qualified to teach on that. So some of you may know more about economics than I do. So we may need to even get some people in here to help us with this a little bit. But when you're reading a news story about economic views, about whether we should raise the tax or raise, what was on the ballot this week? Who knows what was on one of the propositions?
Raise the minimum wage.
Raising minimum wage. Okay? Raising minimum wage was on the ballot. Okay? Think it through now. Why was it on the ballot?
To decide whether we should do it or not.
Okay? The people who voted to say yes, we should intervene. So you have to learn to use these words.
Yeah.
We should intervene in the business dealings of America in order to make sure that the bosses in America are paying people a certain wage. Okay? That's what that was about. We're going to tell McDonald's how much money to pay you. We're going to tell Victory Dream Center how much money to pay the people. We're going to tell you by law, this is how much at your Kool-Aid stand, if you're going to have, you're going to have employees that fall under a code, whatever your code is. If you're going to have people that are going to claim and get tax benefits and everything, they have to have a minimum wage. And the minimum wage will need to move up. Okay? So, you could just say, hey, a lot of people just showed up at the polling place and this is how Americans vote. I don't feel like I like that. That's how Americans vote. That is truly the most astounding thing right now. We do not know how to reason. See, these words are hard on here. Are these hard? These are hard words. Yeah. These words will make me have to think. But you know what? It's in learning and struggling to learn these things that I begin to say, wonder if it makes any difference whether we raise minimum wage. Because see, people walk in there, and so people all over America were voting, yeah, we want more minimum, we want to raise the minimum wage. And then you're looking at it saying, I wonder what will happen if we do.
Everything will cost more.
Well, I just wonder what will happen. You see what I mean? Is anybody thinking any deeper? Or, here's the interesting thing. See, postmodernism almost trains you not to think any deeper. Because you're just constructing the world based on the culture. And it's all related to interventionism, so it begins to mess with your mind. I'm very concerned that people in your generation do not know how to think. They literally do not know how to reason out what's on this chart. And so you're going to have to look at things like, should we raise the minimum wage? Well, I had thought about that before I got in there, but, I'm standing there looking at it while I'm getting ready to check it or not check it, and I had to think, okay, oh boy, I forgot to study that one out. Now, what do I remember about that? And I had to think, oh yeah, and then I made my decision. Are you going to go to the voting booth and just say, boy, Bryant, that's a cool name. I think I heard they were a nice person. Yeah, I'm going to vote for them. Are we going to think about what the viewpoint will then do? Yeah.
Or just not go because one third of Americans didn't vote this election.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 2/3 didn't. We only had
Oh, really?
2/3 didn't vote.
No,
Something
it
like
was
that.
1/3.
1/3, we had
Obama
2/3.
said it in his speech, if he's right. He said 1/3 didn't vote.
Yeah, but those are of the people who are registered. Okay, somebody could go look that up for us. Of what percentage are actually registered and what people show up. Most people will not go vote. Let me tell you, if we could actually train believers to think through some of this stuff before the next election, did you know there's enough Christians in America to change this nation right now?
26% of the voters that did vote were Caucasian Bible-believing Christians.
Yeah.
26%.
Yeah.
So Christians, huh?
How did they figure that?
I don't know. I saw it. It was from
Yeah,
Michael
figure that
Hyde.
out.
Michael Hyde. Yeah, this is
26% of were Caucasian Christians, because like the other people just didn't vote. And
okay.
Christians
Yeah,
did.
see, we had a large voter turnout among conservatives in America. What we've been hearing for years from people who've had their finger on the pulse here is if we really educated our people and began to think again and say we were going to line up with what we said, that there's plenty of votes in America to turn the nation. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm. That's pretty crazy.
It's crazy, isn't it? But instead, we're letting people talk us into post-humanism, and bless their hearts, they don't know what they're doing. You know, I mean, they're just over here lost. But we don't want to get involved. So that's one reason why we're educating. We're thinking through these words. Okay, let me see if there's anything else on here. We're already out of time. Okay, let me see what else is on this test here. I'm going to give it to you to take home. I've told you what's a worldview. You need to be able to define it. Surely you can do that by now. You're going to have to name those worldviews. I told you you need to know the theology, the ethics. You need to know about the biology, the sociology, and the politics. You need to know those words. You do not need to know about anything except just the word evolution. Okay, I think I've gone over most everything. You know the little phrase. You need to know the 10 disciplines of the Christian worldview. Okay, if you know those things, you're going to do fine on the test. It's not a gimme test in that it's not multiple choice. You're going to have to list things. So if you can't list those words out and we can't recognize their spelling, then we won't know whether you did it or not. Okay. So again, what's the value of that? I really hope that you will not be intimidated by somebody throwing out the word interventionism. What's that mean? See, a lot of times people, they think I study all this all the time. I don't sit and study it. I've learned how to think. Interventionism, we should not need to look up. What does it mean?
It means the government intervenes in
Okay,
what
it's
other
a
people are doing.
remember it says ism.
Oh yeah,
Okay?
so it's all
So
the
anytime you
beliefs.
put ism, it takes whatever the word is and amplifies it. It means it's a whole belief system built on the philosophy of intervening in the economics. You see what I mean? Wow. If you learn to do that, guys, you're going to be so much further ahead when you hit your higher level of studies. All right, nice job. Bring your articles next week. And each person can take a test. Just stick it in your notebook. Please don't wait until like Thursday morning to take the test. Let's go ahead and get it in, get her done. Remember now you're going to watch that sermon. You're going to go ahead and get ready for writing your reflection paper. And I'm happy for you to do that anytime now. I don't want to prod you in now on your other writing. I'm okay if you want to go ahead and get it done. You need to turn it on in. Okay? Bring those articles back next week, and we will hopefully you guys are beginning to see what we're looking for in article analysis to be able to look at the worldview. Are you getting that? How to do that?
I assume. Yeah,
And
that's
we
a
didn't get
sub.
into this. New World Order. We need to go through that next week. A generic term